I wanted to take time out and share with you what I presented to the judge this past Wednesday, in which the judge did not appear. And then afterwards, I have a plea that I want to share with you. And I'll be reading from this, so forgive me for not looking right at the camera. I said, Your Honor, please allow me to address the court with my plea for the orphans. If you or anyone in this courtroom knew anything about me, you would know that my whole life exists on behalf of the plea for the orphan. At the age of 19, I ended up on an orphanage in Mexico, and it was there that my heart was changed forever. I could not fathom in my heart, as all of these orphans were running towards me, that they did not have a mommy or a daddy. It was then and there, 33 years ago, that I set out to devote my life for helping the plea of the orphan. Over the next 26 years, I dedicated my life, education, and career in pursuing how to help the orphan, the abused and neglected child. From going to Honduras and meeting with the First Lady to many, many trips to Mexico and to Guatemala to learn more about the street children, to even spending all of my money to acquire a 501c3 status for a ranch for orphans in 1999. My life has been consumed to help the orphans cry. 7 years ago, on Mother's Day, God granted me two gifts that were beyond my comprehension, two orphans from Russia, two sons of my very own. I never considered them as orphans. My youngest doesn't even know what the word means. Not only has God been preparing me through all of my experiences and teaching career to help the orphan, He now entrusted me with two of His precious children to love unconditionally and raise in a godly home. You may think that when my oldest began showing signs of serious behaviors, that I abandoned him at the hospital. I'd like to say that I was doing the very opposite. I was pleading for his cry for help. No one knows of his severe abusive start for the first 5 years of his life, and for the first year and one half of his life. No one here knows of the hurt and hate in this child's heart when he was taken away from his heroin-addicted mother at age 1.5. and placed in a strange environment with many other strange and hurting children just like himself. No one knows of the deep-seated rejection that grew in his heart as he sat there in the orphanage for 3 years, waiting on his mama to come get him. But I did, and I do, as God chose me to be his mama, because He knew that when I gave all that I had just to come get him, that I would never leave him nor forsake him, no matter what. And that is how I loved both of my sons from the very beginning. But my oldest never really accepted my love deep down. Recently, when I told my sons that I believe it was time to go look for land to start the children's ranch again, my oldest changed drastically. Within 2 days, he made confessions of murder, suicide, and death. He acted out on these confessions by pulling a gun out of the secret place in the basement. He was sitting on top of his brother with his hands around his neck and running away, saying that his father was abusing him, to a complete stranger. So when I cried out for help for my oldest son, I was crying out for him, a very hurting and sick little boy. When after only an hour the hospital tells me he's fine to come get him, I was not rejecting him. I was pleading for him. Please help him. He needs more help than that. No one asked me about his past to this day, and no one even asked me if he was ever an orphan. No one would listen to my cries for him. They only listened to a very troubled and sick little boy who knew he was in trouble for what he had done. And when I took my youngest child, my baby boy, Peyton, away from my home, I was taking him to safety too. To me, I was protecting both of my children's needs, trying to protect one orphan from hurting others and himself, because he was an orphan at the beginning, and then trying to protect my other son, Peyton, from ever knowing he was an orphan in the first place. Yet what has happened to Peyton has been the most injustice I've ever witnessed against an orphan in my entire life. This child, who does not even know what the orphan means, the word orphan, now has been made one by the hands of Pickaway County Children's Services for 49 days. The main reason that I exist, to help the cry of the orphan, has been turned against me by people who not only did not know that my sons were orphans in the first place, but have yet to this day inquire about my oldest son's painful and abusive past in Russia. I stand before you today, Your Honor, and throw myself on the mercy of this court on behalf of my 2 children. Please hear my cry as a mother of these 2 orphans. Please do something to help my oldest face his anger and hate instead of hiding it behind a false family and a false sense of security at my estranged brother's house. He does not need Disney World, which is where he's at this very moment, to deal with his pain. He needs to go somewhere and receive intense counseling 24/7 so that maybe, just maybe, he will be healed from his abusive past and lead not just a normal life, but one of victory and hope. As for my baby boy, I am pleading with you to grant the motion to dismiss on his behalf. He is so scared and continues to cry for me throughout his tears, letters, and words to me. Please do not allow one more day for this child to believe that he truly is an orphan. Please. If you have any suspicion that I would flee from the law even after sharing my heart, and that I went to Russia 3 times, 2 even by myself just to be a mother, then place some kind of tracking device on my ankle. If you think I'm in need of some kind of mental help because of my extreme love and devotion for my children, then administer whatever test you want me to take, and I'll take it. But if you find that no mental test, you will find that no mental test will ever reflect the powerful love that I have for my sons who are now made orphans. For it's my life and how I live it all these years that shows you who I am. This is where I am asking for your help. As many of you know, I have had to seek legal counsel and other means to help me fight for my children, my sons, and whom Children's Services have now made to be orphans for 49 days. I have spent all of my cash reserves to this date. In 1999, I resigned from teaching and took all of my retirement to start the ranch in Mexico. In 2008, I resigned again from teaching and took all my retirement to pay to have my sons and to be a full-time mom for 1 year. Then in 2013, I resigned a final time so that I could be what I've always wanted to be, which is a full-time mom. God had given me the idea of opening an Etsy shop and use my skills as a simple carpenter and artist to provide for just simple expenses such as clothes and toys and food, simple pleasures, and maybe a special adventure once a year. At this same time in 2003, I'd been cleaning the doctor's office so that it paid for my part of the mortgage. Did I mind cleaning toilets and filth? No. If it meant that I could be a stay-at-home mom and teach my beautiful boys as a homeschool educator, I will do it. I thank my dad for teaching me how to be a wise steward of God's money. I don't have any debt except for my mortgage. I depend on God for that monthly, and He has never let me down. I believe debt is not of God, as He says to owe no man, and I have strived to live that way faithfully. Sometimes I am unsure of His ways as they are higher than mine, which is why I'm now asking you to help me with my plight for the orphan's cry, which happens to be my very own son, Peyton E.I. God does say to ask, and I'm not proud enough not to. Again, if God does not use you to provide for my fight against this injustice against my children, He'll provide another way. He always has. I am willing to sell my car, take a loan out against the house, do whatever, and He knows that I will. People say money does not grow on trees, but I say money does grow on trees of righteousness. God says to seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. I cannot think of a more righteous thing to seek than that of helping a child who is only known to be my son and now forced to live as an orphan away from the only mommy he's ever known. I hope that by now you know one thing about me for certain, is that I'll go all the way around the world, give all the money I have, and give up any of my endeavors in this life just to help even one orphan. And I'm not about to stop now. And until God takes me home, I will continue this plight for the orphan's cry. Thank you for listening to me and allowing me to have a voice for my precious son.